80 players, one giant fire monster, a 15-minute timer, and somehow the entire fight was over in about 90 seconds. Ever since I started my Guild Wars 2 adventure, one recommendation has kept appearing in my comments. Go fight the fire elemental. Then, as if the universe had impeccable timing, one of my members sent me a message explaining that Guild Wars 2 had just started something called World Boss Rush. It's a week-long event where world bosses drop extra rewards, which also means a lot more players show up to fight them. That sounded like the perfect excuse to see what all the fuss was about. The fire elemental appears inside the ruined Thaumanova Reactor, near the areas I was already exploring in Metrica Province. Getting there took a little adventuring, but before I even arrived, the game started hinting that something unusual was about to happen. First, I received this in-game letter from Halvora Snapdagger of the Order of Whispers. Rather than simply telling players there's a bonus event, Guild Wars 2 wraps it in the game's lore. She's essentially saying there are crises breaking out across Tyria, go investigate, and there may be rewards involved. Then, just to make sure I got the hint, an on-screen notification appeared announcing the World Boss Rush event and pointing me toward the action. Because honestly, who am I to ignore the combined forces of a shadowy secret organization and the intoxicating promise of free digital garbage? Onward to the reactor. World Boss Rush Week is a bonus event that encourages players to fight Guild Wars 2's open world bosses by giving extra rewards. It isn't a new game mode, it's an incentive layered on top of the existing world bosses. Here's how it works. Fight world bosses as normal. Earn bonus boxes of goods. Every qualifying boss drops extra loot boxes on top of its normal rewards. Harder or longer boss chains award more boxes. The fire elemental equals 1 bonus box, but the others, they can be 3 or 5 boxes. I followed a bunch of colorful, sporadically dressed players into the reactor. I was early to the event. According to Einstein, time is relative. But according to this event, schedule is absolute. Unlike many random events, this boss appears every 2 hours. While we wait for this event to eventually happen, I think it's time for some investigative, character-driven people watching. Because frankly, looking at the assembled population here, people is a generous term, and watching is actively dangerous to one's ocular spheres. This isn't a pre-game lobby, it's a high-stakes competitive circus for people who think fashion is a competitive sport. I haven't seen that much uncoordinated color since I tried to eat a packet of Skittles in one go. Alright, so to get this boss to appear, players have to complete a chain of events. They escort the clean 5,000 golem through the reactor, defend it while it cleans up the chaotic energy, and if everything goes according to plan, well, spoiler, it doesn't. So I'm really participating in the conclusion of the area's meta event. Naturally, I assumed all 80 of us were waiting for the event to begin. As it turns out, we were actually waiting for someone else to make the event begin. As I later discovered, players actually have to escort the clean 5,000 golem. I'm sure somewhere off in the distance, there is almost certainly one poor, overworked Asuran player doing all the actual heavy lifting. One stressed out, knee-high genius pushing a golem up a hill entirely by themselves, muttering under their breath while 80 freeloaders stand around becoming desensitized to sensible armor standards. I haven't seen a group project this completely unbalanced since I was forced to build a marshmallow and spaghetti bridge in middle school with 4 boys who somehow consumed half the construction materials before the project even started. Now, as a newcomer to this map, I would love to sit here and tell you that I'm above it all, that I am a noble, hardworking hero of Tyria. But let's be honest, I'm standing squarely in the middle of this mob of glorious lazy freeloaders waiting for an unpaid intern to press the start fight button. Is it shameless? Yes, absolutely. But as long as that boss spawns and the chest drops, who am I to question the system? And then, every player in the crowd simultaneously took one step forward. The music changed, fire erupted from the reactor, and suddenly I understood why 80 people had been standing around doing absolutely nothing. The fire elemental isn't just some generic, oversized torch wandering around looking for trouble. It is literally created when the chaotic reactor energy fuses with the golem's core after the cleanup attempt goes disastrously wrong. You know what? Stuff happens. Things go boom. Fire is, after all, a completely natural side effect of the scientific process. Look, if you didn't want a 100-foot flaming avatar of destruction, you shouldn't have hired a knee-high rat race to vacuum up weaponized radiation. That's basic workplace safety. It's a good thing myself and 79 of my best friends are here to take care of things. Now, was I a pivotal force of destruction in this battle? Look, I'm a little uncertain how much I actually contributed. My strategy mostly consisted of learning, after several horrific third-degree burns, that staying out of the giant glowing fire rings is generally good for one's longevity, and that jumping over shockwaves is preferred to taking them directly to the chest. Listen to me, elemental monstrosity. You gave us a 15-minute timer. 15 minutes. We prepared for a long, drawn-out epic clash between primordial fire and Elton John's bedazzled cosplay. And the entire thing was over in 90 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 people descended upon this poor, confused pile of sentient magma like a swarm of angry, loot-hungry lotusts and deleted it from existence before it could even finish its spawn animation. It took longer for that poor Asuran to push the golem up the hill than it did for us to reduce the apex boss to a pile of lukewarm ash. We didn't just save the zone, we committed an environmental atrocity in record time. But hey, the chest dropped. My ocular globes survived the particle effects, and I'm taking full credit. Excellent teamwork, everyone. Same time tomorrow? Or maybe in 2 hours? You know what? Time flies when you're zerging. Until next time, keep exploring. I'll see you in the next world.